I have this 2005 F350 that lately the muffler's got like a hole in it and it's been getting louder and louder. There you can see the hole, and the whole back end of it is rotted out and the fumes have been getting sucked up in the cab, so I decided it was time to do something about it. Now normally I just go locally and I buy the parts, but this time I decided to try Amazon.com, and they had this like, sign up for Prime special, and they get you the stuff in 2 days, so I decided to try that. And they flew a complete Gibson exhaust system all the way across the country in 2 days for me, and didn't charge me anything extra, so I think that's pretty good. But as you can see, the box was like, it looked like they had dragged it behind the plane on a rope or something. Pretty beat up, and all taped back together and stuff. So, once I opened it, though, everything inside was good. I mean, how hard is it to damage an exhaust system? And it looked like all the parts were there, so I was happy about, just getting it in 2 days. And even had a really nice polished stainless steel tip on it. It looked like a pretty well-made system. It had mounts to match the factory rubber grommet locations and, everything else. So it looks like it's going to be a fairly easy install. If you look under my truck, you can see from being in the Northeast, everything's pretty rusty on the bottom of it. But, it really is nice. You can work under it without jacking it up or anything. So it makes it be a real easy job. And I was able to save the front pipes. So here's, that's a pipe there in the front I'm going to save. And from there back is where this exhaust system will go. So basically, I started by spraying that one joint where I wanted to save the front pipe with PB Blaster, and I sprayed that all around and inside, everything good. Just hopefully, hoping I would be able to get it apart without damaging anything. And then I just let it sit for a couple hours and went back, grabbed my face shield, and grabbed a little Harbor Freight cutoff tool. I got one of those little electric ones that comes in real handy when you don't want to drag out an airline. The only trouble that I found out this time is it was a fairly, big bolt in there. Plus, they had a piece of solid steel in there, so you had to cut through. So after about 30 seconds, the cutoff machine just stopped working, and I thought it had burned it up, but it turned out there was a little button on the end of it that was like a circuit breaker. And when I pushed that in, it actually started working again. So, if you ever have one of these things quit on you, it doesn't mean that it died. It probably just blew the circuit breaker that's built into it. And then I was able to, just cut through the rest of everything that was there. The clamp was a pretty heavy piece of steel that was just wrapped around there. And, I started by trying to pry it off and take it off. But it turned out that it was actually tack welded to the front of the muffler pipe. Now, everything from this point back is a one-piece welded system. So I guess that's why they sell you the parts from there back. And if the front pipe goes, you can actually replace that too. But mine still looked in pretty good shape. So I just took some vice grips and was able to bend it back and forth a little bit to get it loose. And then I pried one corner of that factory seam open, and I figured I wanted to save the front pipe with no damage, so I just took a pair of vice grips and kind of peeled it back like one of those sardine cans, and was able to, the metal was weak enough and thin enough that I was able to just curl it back and roll it back out of the way on the bottom half of the joint. So that didn't take too long, and thank God for vice grips being invented, because they're about the handiest tool that you can own when it comes to working on an old rusty truck like this. So basically, that just peeled open, and there you can see it just did very little damage to that front pipe. You can see there's even a locator on there. So, now everything's broken loose and ready to take it apart. Now, the next thing I did is I cut that bar you see there, right there from the hanger, and I cut that off with that cutoff tool too, so I could pry it out of that factory rubber mount. Now, these rubber mounts, you got to really spray them good with WD-40 to get them to come apart. And I used a big tire iron on that to get the top off. But then I found out that on the bottom of them to get them apart, the easiest way to get that out of there is just take a big old pair of pump pliers, and they'll pop right out once you've got plenty of WD-40 on them, and just slide out. So that, mount was still in good shape. I was able to reuse it. And then there's two more of them, if you look up on top of the muffler there, that aren't so easy to get. But here I just took that big old tire iron after spraying them with WD-40, and I was able to just pry one side out and then, go on the other side and pry that side out. So it didn't take too long to get them unhooked. No unbolting or anything there, and then the muffler just drops right down. And like I said, it's all welded from the muffler back, so it's all one piece. And there's the two muffler hangers up there, and the rubber mounts are still good. So, and there's that front pipe mount. So, everything should be easy to put back together. Now, you can't get this apart in one piece. It's like I said, it was all welded. So the next thing I did is I got out my Sawzall, and I decided to just try to cut right at the back of the muffler to get that back pipe apart. Now, the metal still was pretty heavy on the tailpipe. I'm surprised. It was just really the muffler that was completely shot. But the way it was all put together, you had to replace everything. So I cut through from the top as far as I could until the weight of the muffler pinched it. And I just put a block of wood under it and cut the bottom of it, and the muffler fell right down, ready to come out. So it's, I was surprised just how easy it was and how you really didn't have to unbolt any brackets or anything on this. The truck seemed to be, really well made when it came to mounting the exhaust. But boy, I tell you, that old muffler, it probably weighed about 75 pounds. I don't know what was in it, but it must have had a lot of rust in it. Then I just went to the back, and in the back you got the that back exhaust tailpipe mount, and that's got another one of those rubber hangers on it. So I took those pliers again that I found worked good, and I pushed it through until I got the head part through it. And then I just took my big old tire iron again, and I used that to kind of pry the two pieces apart in there. And that one was kind of nothing really good to pry on, so it took me a little bit of fiddling to get it out. But, it did come out easy, and like I said, WD-40 is your best friend. So there's the tailpipe, and, the truck did come with a 3-inch system on it to begin with, and the new one, the 3-inch system also. And when you just lay them side by side, it looks like everything's going to line up basically perfect. So now here we go, starting to put it back together, which is really the easy part on this. It's a real super simple exhaust to replace. And the biggest thing is, messing with those rubber mounting things, getting those mounts in there. But, basically you just slide them in and they lock in place. And then there's on that front pipe, that little extension pipe, there's a little tab that has to line up with that little factory tab that's on the pipe there. So that goes right in there. And then the next thing I did is I took there's a muffler hanger that actually lines up with the two muffler mounts up on top of the muffler. And I figured it would be easiest to just kind of, put this hanger in place first. So what I did, you can't really see there because my darn head's in the way, but, it just snapped them in, and, it takes a pretty good push. And they go in, and they're still spread a little bit too far, but when you tighten that bolt, everything pulls together after the muffler is in place. So then it's just, you take the muffler, and I just slid that up the back of the muffler up into that bracket, and that kind of hangs it in place while you're working. And then it just slides over that front pipe. And just make sure everything is, properly seated and pushed together tight. And then once you get that in place there, you can see that top bolt. That's going to have to be tightened, once everything's all lined up and stuff. But everything seems to be going together real easy and lining up perfect so far. So I'm happy. And then the next thing I did is I just, went to the back of the truck and took the exhaust pipe and that just you had to just snake that up over the axle there and just watch out for brake lines and stuff. And then that just, slipped into the back of the muffler. And, all the parts, really, there was no damage to anything, and everything slid together real nice and easy and lined up properly. So, the Gibson exhaust, it seemed to me like it was a little bit expensive, but actually I think it was worth it the way it fit. Then once everything's all, hung in place and lined up and pipes are all pushed together tightly, they give you 3 clamps to put on it. And so you got your first clamp where it goes on to the old front pipe. And then there's just a clamp on the front of the muffler there where it goes into that short extension pipe. So I just went through and I just put all the clamps on, just started them, and tried to get them ready to tighten once I get everything lined up. And then there was just one more clamp that had to be put on the back there, and I had to put a couple of blocks of wood up under the back of the tailpipe where it stuck out, just to make sure that there was at least an inch of clearance around everything, to make sure that it was properly located and nothing would hit. And once you get everything lined up, in proper place, just go back and crank down on the clamps, and you got to tighten them real good to get everything tight, make sure it won't come apart later. So you really got to snug down on them real good. So basically there's a back clamp now. I'm going back and just tightening that up. Everything's aligned, and I'm just about done. All in all, I think this basically, it took me, maybe about an hour and a half to get everything out and get everything on and lined up. And then the last thing to go on it is that polished stainless steel tip, which goes on real easy. And that's just got like a bolt going through it that clamps it onto the end of the pipe. And that really, finishes it off nice. And plus, I like the fact that it gives you a couple of inches. It gets out from under the side of the truck there, so that the exhaust doesn't run up on the back of the truck anymore. There you can see it sticks out a couple inches there. Now, when I start it up, there it is starting it up. It actually sounds pretty good. This muffler has no packing in it, so it's it's made to be a little bit louder and have a little bit better performance than the stock stuff. But it does have a nice little rumble to it, and everything all the joints and everything seem to be sealed good. So I'm real happy with the results here, and it even looks pretty good with that little tip on it. So now hopefully I'll be able to drive this thing without getting carbon monoxide poisoning in the future. I think I fixed all my problems that exist with the leaking, and we're ready to go. Probably, well, the truck's got about 35,000 miles on it now, so hopefully it'll last another 35,000. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.